I'm Marnie Hughes, and this is Missing on NewsNation. Thank you for being with us. Each week, we focus on a missing person case from across the country, taking you behind the headlines. Every missing person matters, no matter their background or their past, their race, or their circumstances. They are missed by their family, their friends, their community, and sometimes by complete strangers. It is our mission to bring each and every one of these cases to light with the hope of finding those important answers and sometimes offering closure for families. We think you can help us along the way solve these mysteries. In this week's case, we head to Holden, Louisiana. It's a tight-knit rural community 40 minutes east of Baton Rouge. Barbara Blount was 58 years old when she vanished from her sprawling country home. Since then, she has been legally declared dead, but her family still has no idea what happened to her. And today, police say they think they are closer than ever to finding out that answer for her family and getting justice for Barbara. Here now is Kelly Beeson with Barbara's case.
Bells will be ringing.
You know, the old Christmas carol, bells will be ringing. Well, that song always reminds me of her. Every time I hear that song, in fact, I would call her. When I'd hear it on the radio, I would call her up and say, Aunt Barbara Ann, our song is on.
Christmases in Louisiana have been much bluer since Suzanne Honeycutt's beloved Aunt Barbara disappeared.
First and foremost, she loved God. A very, very good, strong woman of faith. Loved her children and her family.
Suzanne says her aunt was the type of woman who raised her family with high standards.
Raised them up to be tax-paying, law-abiding citizens and, you know, to pay your bills and do the right thing, you know, and work hard.
On top of that, she maintained many hobbies like teaching Bible study, gardening, and raising cattle.
Hauling 5-pound buckets of feed to the cows. She was a strong lady overall.
It's one of the many reasons her family still can't wrap their head around how Barbara could be missing for 15 years now.
That day was shock, disbelief.
May 2nd, 2008, Barbara had planned to take advantage of beautiful weather by cleaning and organizing her kitchen. On her way to work, Barbara's daughter stops by the house in the morning.
She saw her mom, said, okay, I'll check in with you later. I'll call you later.
But just hours later, no one could reach Barbara. And when a family member went to the home, they knew something was wrong.
The door was left open 6 to 10 inches, and her cordless home phone was out on the carport. Nothing was gone but her.
Police responded right away.
There was no signs of forced entry, no signs inside the residence of any kind of struggle.
At the same time, Major Ben Bourgeois and Sheriff Jason Ard say police were already investigating another suspicious call. Someone saw Barbara's silver Toyota parked in the woods off of a hunting club road.
For a clean, well-maintained vehicle like that to be parked off into the woods on a hunting club road was just very suspicious and out of place.
Her keys were found lying in the gravel road beside the car. But by the time police were able to get a tow truck to bring her vehicle in for investigation, a downpour of rain compromised the evidence.
There was an inch of water in the floorboard of the vehicle. That's how much rain had came just in that few hours there.
Police found Barbara's home undisturbed. Among her belongings left were her glasses, cell phone, and even her guns.
When they took her or when they lured her away, it was for her and for no one else.
The only sign of a possible struggle was out in the carport. Her cordless landline phone was found on the ground with the batteries out. Police say it's hard to link that to any foul play.
She was known to where if she went outside or something, she would bring that cordless phone outside. And with the storm that come through, it could have easily been blown over.
She could have dropped it out of being startled. She could have dropped it out of a struggle. We don't really know.
The Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office pored over Barbara's cell phone and landline records and found nothing out of the ordinary. There's another tip they received in recent years they've ruled out. A couple from Alabama came forward saying they believe they saw Barbara where her car was found in 2008. They claim she was speaking with a man in a pickup truck. Investigators looked into this and believe the couple actually saw a witness who found Barbara's vehicle.
We have talked to the ones that were assisting with locating the vehicle, and we believe that that is the same person person that they saw whenever they were passing going to Alabama.
But police say just within the last few months, they have a new lead in the case.
We just want to stick to the facts, but I think we're also going to solve it.
Barbara's niece holds the same hope.
I have a really good feeling. In Psalms 27:14, it says, take courage and wait upon the Lord. And just because whoever did this doesn't feel guilty about it, doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that we're going to give up. It doesn't mean that you're doing right because you know what you did. You're going to have to answer to God one day. And I'm speaking to, they know exactly who I'm speaking to.
I mean, I believe that she was murdered. That's an obvious to us. It's just how it was done, who did it.
For the family, the years of not knowing what happened to Barbara has taken its toll. Honeycutt says her mother, who is Barbara's sister, now has dementia, but she still remembers her sister is missing.
I want to thank NewsNation for airing Barbara's story. We have waited a long time for answers, and as of yet, we have none. But we're still praying that God will give us peace and let us understand and know what happened to her. She was a loving sister, and we were very close.
We have never given up hope, and we never will.
Barbara lost her husband in 2004 in a horrific train accident. His tanker truck was hit by a freight train, resulting in a terrible explosion, killing Barbara's husband along with the train engineer and conductor. The family says lawsuits followed that crash. Her niece, Honeycutt, says that she's asked for police to investigate if there is, in fact, any connection with her aunt's disappearance and that tragic crash. Joining me now to talk more about the case is Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard and Major Ben Bourgeois. To you both, thank you so much for your focus on this case and for giving us some of your time today. I want to start with you, Sheriff. You have said that this is one of those cases that it just sticks with you. Why is that about Barbara's disappearance?
Well, one of the main reasons it sticks with me is because I've been here 30 years, and this is the only unsolved case that I've been involved in. And so, you know, the last 12 I've been the sheriff, and this case it doesn't ever leave my mind. Like, I'll constantly think about it. We get a lot of tips, and we appreciate those tips, and those tips are just things that keeps this case alive. And we don't want to stop until we get this thing solved. And I want to see this family get their peace and get their closure. And you know, me and Major Bourgeois has personally went out and worked these leads. And sometimes there's a lot of theories that come with these cases. And just because that theory is there doesn't mean that we don't look at it. And sometimes we take those theories all the way to the end where, you know, it's really not there, but that doesn't mean that we push it out. It's still in the back of our minds. And we try to focus on that kind of thing. And again, this case has not only bothered me, but I know Major Bourgeois has worked his entire career in investigations just about it. And this Barbara Blount case is just something that both of us, we talk about all the time. This is a common thing at the office. This investigation has never died, and it will not until it is solved.
Major, I'll bring you in here. 15 years is a long time for a case to go unsolved. It's part of the reason that you both are so focused on getting the answers for this family and for your community. But what are the challenges with this much time that has passed and so little evidence for you all to investigate?
Well, you can only go, like you said, off of the tips that we receive and information that's given to us. One of the challenges is being so old. It's a lot of times it's not seen every day. You know, the word's not out there. Doing what y'all doing, it does help us because it gets it back out, gets it fresh in people's minds. Just the time that's lapsed, you know, some people want to maybe try to put it to the side, but we're not going to do that. We're going to keep moving forward on any tips or any evidence that comes forward.
Sheriff, we're looking at Barbara's kitchen that day. Take us through what you all saw when investigators got there, and was it initially treated as a crime scene?
It was absolutely treated as a crime scene. We had a lot of unanswered questions, but she was doing some type of spring cleaning. She had pots and stuff she had pulled out of the cabinets. Nothing was really out of the ordinary. The only thing that we came across at her home that made it seem like that maybe there could have been a possible struggle was her cell phone that was outside and the battery was out of it. So obviously it had failed. We don't know if it did that because of the wind and rain that came, or did she do that because she was startled? Did she do that because she was in a struggle? So that's really the only thing piece of evidence we had. Everything else was just normal, and it was overly clean. You know, did this person lure her out her home? And that's why we had little or no, you know, DNA evidence. So there was a lot of questions there. And at the end of the day, you know, everything that day just seemed like it was going against us, you know, just like that when we found the car, we get over there and in a matter of time, you know, this thunderstorm comes in and the rain comes up. And by the time we get this thing hooked up and onto a wrecker, it has 1 inch of water already inside the vehicle. So everything just seemed to be going against us. But, you know, obviously we didn't stop. And here we are 15 years later, still doing what we can to try to solve this case and asking people, you know, for these tips. And look, it don't matter what it is. If you remember something, please call us. And even if you've told us something before and you feel like maybe you didn't follow up on it, call us again. And we can tell you, yeah, we did follow up on it, or you know what, maybe we didn't. But I know that when we get those tips, we take this very seriously, and we are after the same thing this family's after. We need this solved, we need closure, and we need to make sure that we bring peace to this family.
It's hard not to speculate, but if Barbara was lured away, and you both think, in fact, that she was murdered, have you thought about the why? I mean, what would be someone's motive to lure away this Bible study teacher, someone who loved her family? I mean, what would be the reason that she would even be a target? Is that something that you all have discussed as you investigate?
We have discussed that, and that's one of the problems that we have. You know, we don't know the reason why. If we had that reason, I think we would definitely be a lot further along than where we are today.
And that's why we came up with a lot of theories of what could have happened, and that's kind of where we're at.
What's the most likely theory, Sheriff, that you have laid out in this case?
I believe that she was absolutely lured away from her home, whether she was forced or not. I mean, she may have not. I understand she was a very healthy lady for her age. She was very active, and I think that she could even somewhat take care of herself. I think that she was absolutely lured away from that home, whether it was by gunpoint or maybe it was more than one person. And we just believe that's what happened. And we just need to find out what the motive was. We have some speculations. We have some things that we believe that we know that happened that we can't disclose, but we also know that that's without a doubt, that's what happened. She's not the type just to disappear, not call her family, not, you know, check in. I mean, we know that something happened to this lady, and it was not good in nature.
Yeah, it's haunting. And as we look at some of these old pictures of her, you know, it stands out to me when I listen to her niece talk to our producers that they seem to be speaking, at least that niece did, to someone. She seems to be speaking directly to somebody she thinks is involved. Is there anything you can share about her inclination that a person of interest may be watching or knowing that this case is getting closer to being solved?
I think the person of interest is absolutely watching, and they need to know that we are close to getting them, and we're going to do it eventually. It's just it takes a little time, but we have gotten quite a few breaks in this case that is leading us in different directions. But we feel like that we're a little bit more solid today than we were 15 years ago. And
do you believe at this point you're looking for one person, or are multiple people involved?
I think it's multiple people. I don't know what Major Bourgeois and I has talked about this. I don't think this is a one-person thing. I think it's more than one.
And any connection to what the family considered a tragic event, the loss of her husband, this explosion and train crash?
We've looked into that from the information that we've received from the crash and the lawsuits and things. But I mean, that's not a direct direction. And again, like he said earlier, I think in the previous interviews we did, we're open for anything, for any suggestions, any information that we can get to lead us in a positive direction. We'll take that information. So just keep them coming.
Yeah,
and one, I think it's important that people know also, we haven't ruled out that theory. We've looked at it, and we're going to keep that open. So there's other theories as well, and we don't want to rule anything out, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we continue to follow that, because again, I think it's going to be, more than one person involved in this.
Mm-hmm. If you could say anything to the person or people responsible for Barbara's disappearance and ultimately her death, your message to them, Sheriff, now would be what?
Look, they know what they did. And just because you think you might have got away with something, know that you haven't. And we're not going to stop. We're not going to rest until we get you and bring you to justice. And it's going to happen sooner or later.
Major, talk about your community, the area in Holden, and really this rural spot where so many people call home. How has Barbara's disappearance, even 15 years later, impacted people? Is it still something that concerns people, worries them, that they still talk about?
Yes, ma'am. Anytime Barbara Blount's name's mentioned around the Holden community, it's people recognize that that was a good Christian lady, you know, and she was very much into the community, into her church, her family, her farming. She was a strong lady, as the sheriff said, take care of herself. She had farm animals that she took care of by herself, and the community, I think, is still got their guard up somewhat in that area just because of this from 15 years ago.
We see video of you two outside of her house. Tips are still pouring in. I'm curious, how large is your department? Are you the two primarily working on this case because you're so passionate about it? And what types of resources have you been able to deploy?
Well, we have actually 358 deputies that work at the sheriff's office, and we have a pretty good sized investigation team, and we have a lot of resources that are working on it. And Ben Bourgeois and I have just really taken this one to heart. We kind of have this, we've kind of just got a little bit emotionally involved in this case, and we want to make sure we bring it to an end. And so he and I just have always been in the forefront of this case, but we have a lot of other investigators that are working on it as well with us.
How closely are you in communication with Barbara's family still now?
I speak to her family, or a family member of the family, whether it be the niece, the daughter, the son, or the sister, Miss Sarah, at least once, twice a month.
What happened to her house after she disappeared? Was she living there alone?
At the time of her disappearance, yes, she was living there alone. Since then, her son has moved into the residence.
Okay, and all of the family members have been questioned. Have all family members been cleared of any wrongdoing?
All the family members have been questioned. And at this point, we don't want to get too much into the investigation, but we're still looking into everything. So,
finally, Sheriff, I'll give you the last word here. Your message to the public, because tips are still coming in, and it's just going to take that one tip, that final piece of the puzzle for you guys to solve and crack this case. What should people be considering when they're thinking back 15 years ago that could help you?
Any information would help us, and we find in crime, sometimes people think, well, I know about this, but it's kind of so small and they're really busy. They probably don't really want to look at that. That's not true. We want every piece of evidence you think you have. I don't care if it's a suspicion or if it's something maybe that somebody said and you overheard a conversation. That's important to us because, again, we have all these pieces of this puzzle and some of them are missing, and they may actually hold that key piece that solves this, that actually can help us put this whole entire puzzle together. So it's very important that the citizens know that, look, we take this serious, we need your help. We're only as good as the information we receive, and so we need your help in this case. We feel like we have some good evidence, and it's leading us in a right direction, but you may actually hold some pieces that actually will help us come together and solve this even quicker.
Yeah, and I encourage everyone who has seen this story now to share it with those you know who are in your circle so we can continue to get the word out. The number to call is what, Sheriff, if people have tips?
225-686-2241, and you can ask for an investigative division, and they'll put you to.
The Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Jason Ard and Major Ben Bourgeois, to you both. I applaud what you're doing. Many of the cold cases don't get the attention they deserve, and that's certainly not the case in Barbara's disappearance. So thank you both. Our best as you continue to investigate, and I hope the next time we talk, you have someone in custody and there is closure for this family.
Thank you. We hope that as well.
Thank you. If you have a missing persons case you think that we should be covering, you can send it to us at newsnationnow.com/missing. You can also send us tips through our NewsNation app. Thank you, as always, for being part of this week's case. I'm Marnie Hughes in Chicago, and we'll be back next week with another missing case.